Well, hello there. My name's Brian Koenig, and this is my submission for the IJA E-Juggle Video Tutorial Contest 2016. Today, we're going to be talking about numbers juggling, specifically mastering the flash. Cue sweet juggling montage.
Hey, the reason I'm making this video is I love numbers juggling. I've been doing it for about 10 years, and I wanted to make a resource for people. I'm going to share my own personal tricks and techniques. I hope this is useful for anyone working on 5 to 15 objects. I'm going to focus a lot on the grip and the release, but I also want this to function as a resource to point you towards other things that can help you with numbers juggling, like videos, articles, and things like that. So sit back, and I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, let me know in a comment below. Thank you.
So first off, we'll start with my standard grip for 3-ball. It looks like this. Just relax wherever feels most comfortable. For 5, I hold 3. You go 1, 2, 3. Most throw this ball first. Some people throw this one first. So it usually looks like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. But some people also do 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And the grip is like that. The index finger in between those two. 2 on this one. When I go up to 7 with this size ball, I would stack just like this. The 4th ball being on the top of the same grip and the same on that side. Again, that's index finger in the middle, and I throw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. Good. Now, for higher than 7, my grip for 4 in one hand is non-stacked, and for 5. So for 4 in one hand, I hold the balls like this. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 fingers go on that one right there. And this is a smaller. These are drop prop bags. I like the way they feel for 8 to 10 ball juggling. And it looks just like this, and it would go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, where it starts to get different is a lot of people hold 9 different ways, alright? So most people will hold the 4 that they held before, a standard grip, with 1 stacked right on top. But I don't really like that grip that much because I feel like it changes your throw, because your first throw goes like this, and then you slightly turn your hand to flick. Whereas I like holding the 5th ball right here because then it's the farthest away from your wrist, so it gives you really good leverage on that first throw. So it looks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that looks a little bit like this. The grip index finger goes on this one, but kind of between the two. There's 1 finger on each ball right there. You see that? Same as before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I have seen people who, in addition to holding it like this, or like this, they hold it like this, right? And so they'll throw that one first, and then the same order. And then for 6, I wouldn't usually use 6 of these because they're too large, but I'd stack the 6th one right on top. Now, those same grips with these very small N8 Gballz N8 beanbags, which I'd say are the gold standard for high numbers juggling. They're smaller, and they're very underfilled, easy to catch, right? And so they look just like this. So you take these, you hold them right here, same grip, 1 finger on each one, if you can see all those, like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just like that. And then again for 10, it's 5 in each hand, non-stacked. I think it works better. That's just my personal taste. Add that one on top. Now if you want to get crazy and go on to 7, if you're doing 7 in one hand, or you're working on 13, which is very few of you, you would hold that 6th ball that was on the top right there. I extend that finger up, and it holds that, with the 7th ball stacked on top, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pretty straightforward. I hope that's helpful. There are lots of other ways to grip. You can find your own way, but those are the ways I like to do it.
Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to be physically warmed up. I like to do jumping jacks. I make sure I stretch out my sides and my back. Most of my own personal injuries from numbers juggling have happened as I contract from releasing the first couple sets of throws, and I pull my arms back down, my back would seize up. So I spend a lot of time working on that. You should make sure you take care of whatever is ailing you. Make sure you stretch out your wrists, your shoulders. Just make sure everything's warm. You know, it's your body. You don't want to ruin it so that you can continue juggling. It's okay if there is strain when you're working, but if there's pain, you should probably stop. Rest. Make your attempts valuable. You don't want to have to juggle for an hour on end to get that flash. You want to make good use of your time and try and warm up efficiently so that your first attempts are good, because your first attempts will always be your best attempts. Now, I always do a traditional warm-up with 5 ball. I run 5 ball, I run it high. I do the same thing with 6 ball. I think running high patterns, cascades, and fountains is one of the best training for numbers juggling. It's one of the most common tools I see other numbers jugglers using, so I recommend that you do that highly. Definitely you want to do like 5 ups, 6 ups, whatever, flashes of the number in your pattern. This will help with accuracy. These patterns aren't the most clean right here. These are the ones I filmed. Shower patterns are great for improving throw strength and accuracy. Just make sure you work on them on both sides. You'll become extremely imbalanced if you don't focus on both sides. Again, with cascades, I run the next number up, and I'll throw it nice and high. Get a leg kick in here for you, Luke. Maybe not. With fountains, I practice in one hand. You got to practice in one hand. You should be able to qualify a number in your hand before you flash the other number. So if you can qualify 4 in one hand, that's when you should be ready to flash 8. I make sure I warm up 6 and 8 in all the patterns. I actually juggle 8 balls in a synchronous fountain, 10 balls in a cross pattern, and 12 balls in synchronous fountain. I don't know why. I've always just made sure I kept all 3 in my training. That being said, check your form. I don't think your arms need to be as far back as you usually have them with a good juggling technique. For flashing, I think your throws are different because of the weight of the objects in your hands. So your arms can be a little bit in front of you, keep those elbows in, and you're just about ready to flash. For practicing the release, I always do this drill where I start with the number I'm working on, let's say 9, and I take the 5 balls that I'd hold in my right hand. I toss them hand to hand, a nice low, just to improve the dexterity of that release and collect. Once I start feeling comfortable with that, I do it high, and that was one of the biggest drills I've always used to train new numbers when I was working on 5 and 6 in one hand, and even 7 in one hand. It's an invaluable tool for me, and I think it helps prepare you for a high flash. And once you've got all that done, you've done all your preparation, try your first flash. It'll probably look like that. You won't catch many of them, but that's okay. Now finally, I just want to talk about a bunch of random stuff and then go over the collect. Firstly, a good numbers training session for me was always 30 minutes to 45 minutes. If you start too soon, you're not warmed up enough, and if you go too long, you're just straining your body, doing inefficient practice. I think it's important to pace yourself and to know that your first attempts, once you've been warmed up, are going to be your best attempts. Make the most of them. If you start seeing yourself decline or not make any improvement, just stop. It's not worth training bad form. Additionally, I always make sure I take a deep breath in before I make a flash attempt. Breathing is not as important for flashing as it is for standard juggling because your flashes aren't very long, but I like to breathe in deep. I like to use my legs on even numbers to really get some good height, especially on 12 ball. I think the legs are an integral part of the flashing technique, and even though it looks like I'm jumping sometimes, it definitely helps me get more power. Another really good tool for improving your hand speed is working under low ceilings. Flashing very low will help you build up your collect speed, and it will help build up your release speed. Sometimes when I'm struggling with a number, like if I'm struggling with 8 ball, I'll move up to 10 just to make some attempts at it, to make 8 feel slower. Even if I'm not feeling good at 10, I think it's good to push beyond your limits. That way when you're working on your standard patterns, it'll feel better. Additionally, if you're struggling with 10, go back down to 8 for a while. Run 8 high and move it up, and that'll make your 10 feel better. It's all about fundamentals. The better your base patterns are, the better your upper patterns will be. The better your upper patterns are, the slower your base patterns will feel. So it's a nice kind of give and take. This here is a very slow motion clip of me flashing 10. It shows how the release occurs and the collect occurs. What it shows is how you release from the front of the hand and collect from the back of the hand. So you start from the front of the hand and work towards the back as you release, and then you start at the back of the hand and work towards the front as you collect. Practicing collecting using the technique I mentioned earlier where you toss the balls hand to hand is one of the most effective ways I learned, and working on in one hand patterns like 4 in one hand, 5 in one hand helps train the collect without having to worry about an entire pattern. I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the long run, it's better to solidify your fundamentals than to rush into doing the next number. I didn't exactly follow this advice when I started, and even though I made fast progress, my form was sloppy, and I spent many years retraining my technique. So if you stick to training properly, you'll have proper results in good time. Now, as part of the resources I promised, I'm giving you a list of numbers jugglers to check out. Their links are in the bio. Here's some samples. This is Bruce Sarafian, first person to do 12. Crazy numbers juggler of the 90s. Peter Bone, first person to do 13. He's got monster patterns. First person I ever saw do a 12-ball asynchronous flash. Next is Alex Barron, the current numbers king. He holds the 10, 11, 12, and 13 ball records. Check out all of his videos. Study his technique. It is amazing. It's beautiful. I don't believe anyone can beat him right now, except maybe these next couple people. Dan Wood's got a pretty great 12-ball pattern. This is 14 catches right here. And his 11-ball pattern's pretty darn good, too. After that's Luke Davies. He's done some crazy stuff recently with 10 to 12 balls. Some awesome stuff with balances and leg kicks. I look forward to seeing where he goes from here. And we got more amazing British jugglers. Dave Leahy, this is a great 12-ball pattern right here. Tom Whitfield, another great 12-ball pattern. Alex McGillivray, I think you're younger. I'm not sure, man. You got great stuff. Look at that 10-ball pattern. It's beautiful. Some great 10-ball action with Russians by David Furman, who used to hold the 10-ball world record before Alex Barron broke it. And finally, my good friend Matan Pressberg. Check out his Instagram. His 9-ball pattern is beautiful. There's nothing quite like it. Watch all their videos. There are links in the description below. I hope they help you improve.
All right, now real quickly, I want to talk about a couple of articles I found very helpful when I first started off as a numbers juggler. The first being Boppo's numbers notes. They're from the guy who was the first to do 11 on video. It was very helpful. The second one being Peter Bone's 32 tips and tricks for flashing high numbers. This was the most important resource for me when I first started off working on numbers. The first thing you should do after watching this video is go check that out. Peter, you rock. Thank you for writing that years ago. And the last one is Jack Calvin's paper on juggling.org called The Human Limits, where he comes to some really interesting conclusions about the potential of jugglers and numbers juggling and how the physical limits of the body will determine what we do. It's very informative, but you should check it out, read it. It's a very interesting read if you want to nerd out about juggling. And that being said, if you have any other additional articles you want I should know about, you should link them to me, send me a comment. I would love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit, and I hope you have a fantastic time numbers juggling and that you achieve your new flash first thing tomorrow, or today, if you're going out to juggle today. Thank you. So, Emma, you have any useful tips for flashing? Any great? What are you reading there, Emma?
4,000 Years of Juggling.
How is it?
It reads a lot like Harry Potter.